If higher sales targets automatically created discipline, most MSMEs would already be stable. But they are not. Because targets create pressure, and pressure without structure creates stress, not discipline. Numbers do not create order. They amplify whatever system already exists. If your system is unclear, bigger targets magnify confusion. If your system is stable, bigger targets accelerate growth. Hi, this is Abanibhusan Bera, founder of MSME Growth Hub and Sales Systems Advisor to MSME founders. You are listening to Season 8 of the MSME Growth Hub podcast, where we are navigating the journey from sales chaos to sales clarity. In this section, we are examining misdiagnosed sales problems, and one of the most common misdiagnoses is this: we need higher targets to create discipline. Let us examine that carefully. Targets feel decisive. They create urgency. They signal seriousness. They provide a sense of direction. When revenue slows, the immediate reaction often is, let's increase the monthly target. It feels bold. It feels proactive. But it is not structural. Targets are outcomes, systems are mechanisms. You cannot commend discipline through outcomes. You must design discipline through structure. Now, what sales discipline actually means? Sales discipline is not intensity. It is not shouting in review meetings. It is not emotional speeches. It is not pressure emails. Sales discipline is clear qualification criteria, defined activity rhythm, structured discovery conversations, predictable follow-up cadence, measurable conversion ratios, structured weekly review decisions. Notice carefully, none of these are targets, they are operational architecture. Targets measure results, architecture produces results. Let us imagine a familiar scenario. An MSME currently does 1 crore per month. Founder declares we must reach 1.5 crore. Target announced. Team feels pressure. Now ask, did the ICP change? Did qualification logic improve? Did discovery questions deepen? Did follow-up structure improve? Did pipeline clarity improve? Did review frameworks change? If none of that changed, then what actually increased exactly? Only the number. And numbers without structural support create tension. In larger sales architectures I have operated within, managing layered sales teams, distributor ecosystems, and multi-level coordination, one principle became unmistakable. Targets magnify whatever structure already exists. They never compensates for its absence. When we raised targets inside wrong systems, growth accelerated. When targets were raised inside weak coordination structures, volatility increased. The pattern was consistent. Pressure without structural redesign never produced discipline, it produced stress. When targets increase inside unclear systems, three things typically happen. First, qualification standards quietly drop. Second, discounting increases. Third, forecast optimism replaces forecast accuracy. Why? Because the team must somehow hit the number. And when process clarity is weak, improvisation becomes survival. Improvisation increases volatility. Volatility increases anxiety. Anxiety increases blame. Blame increases chaos. This is not a motivation issue, it is structural fragility. In one advisory engagement focused purely on sales structure redesign, the turning point did not come from revisiting revenue expectations. It came from redesigning qualification logic and review cadence. Before that, the team was chasing targets. After structural clarity, the team was managing conversion stages. The numbers eventually followed, not because targets increased, but because discipline stabilized. That distinction matters deeply. Pressure creates urgency. Designed discipline creates consistency. Pressure relies on emotion, discipline relies on clarity. Many founders confuse visible stress with serious effort. If the team is working late, it feels committed. But stress is not structure. Stress is often a reaction to unclear systems under pressure. Instead of asking, what is our revenue target? Ask, what is our activity architecture? For example, how many qualified discovery calls per week? What defines qualification? What is the acceptable follow-up gap? What is our proposal turnaround discipline? What is our CRM update frequency? What triggers escalation in stalled deals? When activity discipline is defined, revenue becomes mathematical. When activity discipline is undefined, revenue becomes hopeful. Hope is not strategy. When targets increase but systems remain unclear, teams feel unsupported, overexposed, blamed for structural gaps, measured against outcomes they cannot structurally influence. Morale declines, confidence declines, and then founders say the team lacks hunger. Often, the team lacks architecture. In Vedantic philosophy, attachment to fruit without alignment of action creates inner friction. Targets represent fruit. Operational structure represents aligned action. When fruit is demanded without refining action, suffering increases. When action is refined, fruit follows naturally. This applies equally in sales governance. If you truly want discipline, redesign structure that define ICP precisely, standardize discovery frameworks, clarify qualification filters, create structured proposal templates, implement defined follow-up cadence, make CRM stages non-negotiable. Run weekly review meetings with decision logic, not storytelling. Then increase targets. Now targets accelerate. Without this sequence, targets destabilize. Before announcing your next target, pause. Ask, if I increase this by 30%, what structural change must accompany it? If you cannot clearly answer that question, discipline will not increase, only pressure will. Sales targets do not create discipline. Systems create discipline. Targets reveal whether discipline exists. If your team feels overwhelmed every time numbers rise, do not assume they lack drive. Examine whether you have provided architecture. Sales clarity is not about pushing harder, it is about designing better. If this reflection shifted how you think about targets inside your organization, consider following this podcast as we continue this structured series on sales chaos to sales clarity. And if you know a founder who believes higher numbers automatically create discipline, you may thoughtfully share this episode with them.